Hey, how you doing there again, folks? Me again, of course, Brandon Wenzel. Come back at you. Another offering off my sampler platter. Yes, indeed, folks. I'm Platter. Series of videos I do for a little while now. I go over there, try out food and drink items. I eat stuff, I drink stuff. Then, folks, I'm gonna talk about stuff. I'm gonna let you know all that you need to know about hopefully delicious stuff. That time I'm doing this, folks, I'm not gonna lie. There's a fly in my car for some reason. I'm trying to shoo it out the window. I don't know how well that worked. But anyway, folks, it's super simple format. I'm going to go over there and try out food and or drink items for you. Whilst I'm doing so, I'm going to yam around about it for a bit. Whilst I'm doing all that, I am inside my truck. And whilst I'm doing all that, folks, I'm wearing a super cool shirt. And folks, when I wear super cool shirts, I always like to highlight the super cool shirt. What super cool shirt am I wearing for you today, folks? Well, it happens to be my, boom, it is my Dragon Ball Z shirt. What with the Goku and such. I've worn this one on a number of reviews. I picked this one up a few months ago. It was pretty much right after the very sad announcement of the Dragon Ball creator Akira Toriyama passing away. Even though I've never counted myself as being like amongst like the highest tier fans of like the Dragon Ball universe and everything, I have nothing but the greatest admiration for Akira Toriyama and his work. Whether it was the Dragon Ball stuff or his work with Chrono Trigger or the Dragon Warrior series. Like, the guy was an icon amongst icons, and I certainly grew up enjoying myself some DBZ back on Toonami and then, Adult Swim. And actually, I'm a bigger fan of the original Dragon Ball. That's kind of my jam, but yeah, it just, it's a very cool shirt. It's simple, and it just felt appropriate, again, just given, the very sad passing. Like, that was such a huge hit. That hit me harder than I thought it would, but anyway. So what am I going to be... Yeah, that fly is definitely still in here. What am I going to be reviewing for you today, folks? Fly or not? So it has nothing to do with Dragon Ball or anything like that. It's just been in my fridge for a little bit, and I just kind of seemed like, cool, let's get it out of the way. Also, I do just want to mention, I don't think it should be that bad of a problem. I do have my air conditioning on with the car because it's a little bit warm. I'm hoping it won't pick up too bad on the video. If it does, I apologize, and I'll try to remedy that in the future. But anyway, I'm reviewing, boom, it's fucking root beer. It's an old-timey root beer. This specifically is from Root Naturals, their Apothecary craft soda since 1937, all-natural root beer. Apparently, it's from Cincinnati, Ohio. Ingredients: triple filtered carbonated water, cane sugar, botanical extract blend, natural flavor, and caramelized cane sugar. Now, folks, if you watch my channel long enough, you know I love root beer. So much so, I have an entire playlist called Root Beer Reviews, which is just root beer reviews, just root beers that I've tried. I have never heard of this one. I don't even remember where I got it, but root beer. So, first of all, let's get a thing for the thing. Can we get a thing for a thing? Maybe we'll do it like that. Maybe we'll do it like that. Ha 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 ha! It's fancy looking. Ha 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 ha. Let's give it a go. Hopefully it's a twist off, because otherwise I have to shut off my car to get to my my thing. Yep, it is. Ooh, it smells root beery. Ooh, I like this one. This is some good time stuff. It's not overly complex, but that kind of works to its favor. Like, it's just trying to be a fairly simple root beer, and it's doing that really well. Yeah, that's really nice. Nice, very refreshing. It's not a heavy root beer either, which I was kind of surprised because the cane sugar. Usually cane sugar kind of feels a little bit heavier to me. When it comes to root beers, and I've mentioned this any number of times, there's kind of two camps that I sort of see. On the one hand, especially for like commercial root beers, on the one hand you have root beers like A&W and Mug, which are very sweet, very simple in flavor, very commercial, very easy to market to anybody. They work for pretty much everyone. On the other hand, you have root beers like Bargs and Dad's, which to me are a little bit more complex, a little bit more harsh, and they're a little bit more specific. Typically, you kind of fall into one of two camps, and typically root beers do as well. they kind of either try to emphasize that sweetness and that more marketability, or they want to go for a more root beer tasting root beer. Now, what's interesting with this one is I think it veers more in the line of kind of that Bargs and Dads, but it does have elements from more of the A&W and Mug camp, because it definitely tastes like a root beer. It has that sort of aniseedy, as they're regarding it as an apothecary craft soda and everything. It almost has a quasi-medicinal taste to it, which I love, but some people hate. It definitely tastes like an old-timey soda. But at the same time, and maybe this is a result of it being more of sort of an old-timey soda, it doesn't taste as harsh as like your Bargs and your Dads. Like, it's a relatively smooth root beer. And usually when I think more root beer tasting root beers, I do think, again, it's going to have a little harshness to it. But when you think about it, in terms like how drinks developed and stuff like that, and, where they started to where they are now, it's entirely possible that, the carbonation level went up over the years as consumers became more used to it. I think that might be what's going on here. But that is very nice. It's, like I said, it's a relatively simple root beer. It's not throwing anything at me that is, surprising me or throwing me off. It's just a root beer. And there's a lot to be said for that. It's easy to drink. I like the elements that I'm tasting. It's not going to be an out-and-out favorite for me, but I do really enjoy it. I think it's got a nice mix of things that I like with things that, maybe aren't always my favorite elements, but I do think work well in this particular brand. Yeah, it's nice. It's just, like I said, you get a little bit of that aniseedy flavor, a little bit of that sort of caramelization kind of flavor. It's good. But 2 questions have to be asked. Would I get it again? Would I recommend it? I'm going to go with yes and sort of yes. I think for me personally, like I said, this would never be like my favorite root beer. It's not going to knock off any of like my top tier ones. Because while I do enjoy the simplicity of it, and I think that it gives it a very honest quality, I have to admit, I do like root beers that have a greater complexity to them, that I can almost sip and kind of, taste the different flavors going on. This doesn't really have that too much. I'm not going to say it's one-dimensional, because it's not. It does have a little complexity, but it is a relatively simple root beer. So it's one of those things where kind of its greatest strength is almost its greatest weakness to a certain extent, because while I do really like that simplicity and just the honesty of it all, I do sort of yearn for just a little bit more to kind of, plus, like I said, I like a little bit of a harshness with my root beer. But I do still really like it. And it's one that, I could, if I could remember where the fuck I got it from, I could definitely go over there and put this in my cupboard at some point, or in my fridge at some point, and just to have it as, an option. And if I'm recommending it to people, it really does depend on kind of what you're expecting. I think that, again, if you're sort of looking at those 2 camps that I was talking about before, I think the Bargs and Dads camp would be more in tune with this, because ultimately, even though it's not a very harsh root beer, it's super complex, it gears more in that line in terms of flavor. And I think for fans of A&W and Mug, even though it's a relatively smooth root beer, and it's not as harsh as some of the ones I was talking about otherwise, the flavor might throw you off, because it is more of a like straight root beer flavor. So that's kind of where I see it. But at the same time, I could almost see this as being sort of a bridge point, because it does have elements of both. I just think it swings more in the way of like Dads and Bargs. But I like it. 5 things before I get out of here. Have yourself a great rest of your day, spectacular rest of your week, monumental rest of your month, stupendous rest of your year. Folks, go over there, have yourselves a truly root beer-tastic rest of your life, because when it's root beer, it's always root beer-tastic. Final 2 things. Number 1, try to bring some positivity into the world. It's not always possible. It is, however, always appreciated. But what you do can't do all the time. I know I can't do all the time. Here's what you're going to do, folks. You're going to try not to be an asshole. Folks, not always the easiest thing in the world to not be an asshole. Trust me. I know it. I live it. I'm out there every day with you in it. Life can be stressful and frustrating and just bullshit sometimes, folks. And when we find ourselves in situations where we have to deal with said bullshit, it's important that we go over there whenever possible. Take a step back, try to mitigate the level of assholishness in our lives, hopefully do better for ourselves and for those around us. Very final thing, folks, do the thing. Whatever the thing is for you, that's what I want you to go out and do. Folks, do you guys have a favorite root beer? You know, like, I would genuinely be really interested in, you know, kind of hearing about that, because, I mean, even if it is something like just A&W or Mug, like, there's a lot to be said, and I'm always on team root beer. Even if it's not a root beer that's, like, my particular favorite, I'm always going to go over there and, you know, be like, yeah, let's go root beer. Because I feel like it's, even in America, I feel like it's very underrepresented. You know, you go to gas stations, convenience stores, whatever, you know, they've got Coke, they've got Pepsi, they've got Sprite, they've got 7-Up. They've got 4 different kinds of orange soda. Root beer, if you get one, you're pretty lucky. Maybe A&W, maybe Mug, maybe Barks. But it's such a good drink, and I just feel like, you know, I feel like that's, and it's like an American drink too, you know. I found that out a few years ago, where it's like, apparently most places don't do root beer, like, they're just not into it. But here in America, damn it, America! Fuck yeah. Anyway.